I'm Caitlyn Adams. I'm here today with John, who's going to tell us a little bit about himself and specifically the Grasp Yoga program. So, good morning or good afternoon.
Good afternoon, good evening, good day.
Yes.
So hi, my name's John Griffin. I've been teaching yoga in South Korea now for about 8 years, and I've been doing yoga since I first left the house when I was 18. So my background, I was a basketball player. I was always flexible in high school, and this is the early 1980s, and yoga back then was like, what? Yoga?
Yeah,
There
that
was
was
a
before it was cool.
Yeah, I mean, there's a show on PBS called Lilias Yoga and You, if you remember that, and that's like my only exposure. So my first just moved out of the house and I took a class at the local junior college. I was curious about it and I liked it, and I kept doing it because I played basketball in college and played overseas 7 years, and I played at a really competitive level until I was 48. And yoga I did it for about 30 or so years, just mostly for the physical part, and it kept my knees from getting injured, makes the muscles around your joints stronger.
Oh,
uh,
yeah. I mean, that's a long basketball career.
yeah,
Yoga was definitely part of that.
yeah, and I never had any really major injuries. Just a pulled hamstrings, about the worst, and a couple of finger injuries. But I'm sure it's because of yoga. And I look back now and like how long I played. Like I'm older now, and I watch basketball. I'm like, oh God, I did that before. Like, how did I do that without getting injured? You know. So anyway, and then about 2010, I took a Raja Yoga class, and then it really sort of made everything just click, because I had done yoga. I'd done a few different teacher trainings. I did Hatha Yoga, I did Iyengar teacher training for a while. And this suddenly I did, when I started doing Raja Yoga, it all made sense. Oh, okay. This is like beyond the physical, because everyone's heard about yoga has all these wonder hidden benefits, but just doing the physical poses by itself, like, is that, how does that lead to the mind body connection? And that's always been a very vague concept to me. And I find even now, most yoga teachers can't really explain that. It doesn't make sense. There's a lot of dogma that goes with that. Just accept that, prana is somehow come through your breath. So prana
Hmm.
exists in the air. So anyway, so Raja Yoga, what I learned from this is it's basically yoga within all the 8 branches of yoga, right? And if you do it just only for the physical part, it's like really just you're missing out on all the really deeper benefits, and it's like an empty shell of what it could be.
Mhm. Yeah,
So
I know when we first met, we talked about in the Yoga Sutras, the governing texts of yoga, there's 3 lines that mention movement, and the rest of it is all, this other stuff.
right, right, it's become, it's not a bad thing. It's good that this has become a form of very popular exercise, and the more people that do it, the better. But there's a lot of weird stuff, or overly focused on anatomy, and they're missing the big picture.
Yeah.
And
It's
so
so
what
much more than physical fitness.
Yeah, and I know that. I mean, just my students. I teach South Korean university students in university. It's a 4 credit program, and I can't grade them on their physical ability because they don't really have much. Like they are. Something came out in the paper last year where the people over 70 in South Korea are more physically active than Korean teenagers,
Wow.
because they just study, they go to school, but their main studying takes place after school in these private academies, all about focusing on just passing the SAT test, which is just once a year. And then if they don't even get a good enough score, then they'll study for a whole other year. You just study, 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 just to focus on this one test again, take it again, like when they're 19, and then even when they're 20, 2 or 3 times. And it's, yeah. So they really, so imagine what that does to you mentally, right? There's
Oh
so much
yeah, very
stress.
sedentary, very high stress.
And so, I mean, sadly, their number one cause of death in this demographic is suicide. It's a big problem. It's the highest in the OECD countries in South Korea, and also for young people. So, so the Raja Yoga I teach is all about Satva. So the Satva is one of the 3 gunas, or energy states. So there's tamas, when you have this sort of descending energy or rising energy, and rajas. But Sattva is about the harmony or the balance between the two. And that's really all you need to know. You don't have to climb this big intellectual mountain and know all these esoteric terms and Sanskrit and all that. And it's really easy to do, but it takes stillness. And so that's really what a pose is all about. The asanas are all about stillness. So it's stillness in the pose, because like when you take a picture, you pose for a picture, so there's no movement, right? But also between the poses. And that's when you allow the energy that you generated to settle down. And the metaphor that I use, which my students like, is pouring a beer. So you have a certain amount of liquid in beer in the mug, and you add some beer, and there's foam, right? So it rises. You got to let the foam settle down, but then the level is higher than it was before, right? And that's the whole point. And they talked about this, the sutras and the ancient yoga texts. They talk about Satva, such a key point, and it's harmony. So it's that balance between your energies, and you can really feel this. And so when I started doing Raja Yoga, I immediately was able to just this is what it means. This is it. This has just felt like I'd come home, or I'd really, this is what yoga is. And so what that stillness does, it allows your not so much when you're doing the poses, but afterwards, just in your life, you have more stillness in your life, and that's yoga off the mat. And when that happens, you naturally start to open up. Start to look at yourself, because that's really what yoga is designed to do: is give you more awareness and control and knowledge about yourself. And so what I teach in my classes in Seoul is first we talk about the energy body, and then we look at all the yamas and niyamas in depth. So there's 10 of those, and we start, of course, you have to clean up your room first before you can make it nice and pretty. So that's why the yamas are the negatives. The non-violence is the key. It's the key to a stable society, and it's not just a simple thing about don't hurt or kill people or kill animals, but it's about yourself. Don't be violent to yourself, and that applies to the practice as well. About if you can't do a pose, don't worry about it. It's not right.
And don't beat yourself up over it.
Yeah, and don't try to push yourself too far. Right, that relates to aparigraha, or non-greed and non-desire. And so these are all connected physically, but also much more deeply on a mental level for yoga off the mat.
Yoga off the mat is, I think, where the biggest changes and benefits come from.
Yeah,
and it doesn't really matter, can I do a perfect tree pose, but how does that come into my life? That's where the importance is.
Yeah. Like I read some guy said that yoga is about the shape of your life, not the shape of your body. Right.
Love that.
Because it's really true. And my students, so I have so much. Last semester I made a little booklet of all what the students have written about the class. So I figured it's easier to show what happens, what the effects are for them, than for me to try to talk about yoga and this and that, what I do. Well, this is what this is the results of what I do, and it's all in their own words. And I teach at the most famous art school in South Korea, so I always jokingly call it it's the most famous art school between Tokyo and Beijing, which sounds very impressive, right? But it's mostly water. But still,
I like that. I paused for a second. I was like, "Oh, wait."
That was impressive, like Tokyo and Beijing. Oh.
Yeah.
Or Vladivostok, Russia, and Taipei, also, if you will. If you turn the map sideways, but.
Nice. Yeah, you shared that booklet with me, and I'm not surprised that it's an art school, because a lot of them were drawings of people just your students putting into art how they feel, and it was really lovely to look at.
Yeah, yep. So I have tons of material like that, and if anybody watching this, if they send me an email, I can send that to them by email, and they can look at it. It's
yes, definitely.
Yeah, and for me, it's really rewarding to see that, because it's such a. I have them for such a short time. So the class, it's a 15-week semester, just 2 hours a week, just one class, 2 hours, which is really an hour and a half, because I like to let them go a bit early, which they don't mind at all. But we end the class. The whole point of the class is to kind of just get control of your energy and sattva and that nice, calm, peaceful feeling. So I like that, and we of course finished with shavasana, the corpse pose. Then I don't want them to, they have 10 minutes between classes. So I don't want them to rush and kind of lose that feeling. So I let them go early, and I tell them just to keep that nice feeling as long as you can, and sort of be aware of your body movements, how your feet touch the ground, and just look around. And they write about these things. They talk about things that they never were aware of, and so it's an English class. That's the pretense of it. I kind of snuck it under the radar. I couldn't do a yoga class. It would take 2 years of asking the administration to change it and make it official, and it would never happen. But yeah, so I forgot what I was saying, but that's
Nice. So the GRASP yoga program, GRASP is actually an acronym. How did you come up with that?
yeah. My friend and I were talking about that, and we're trying to think of like understanding and grip, and he said grasp, and then I realized it fits perfectly with the three things besides my name and the P for program. But Raja Yoga, all 8 branches. That's what I teach, and then ahimsa is the basic thing. You just don't hurt yourself. And I've taught this now for almost 8 years now, I guess, and no one's ever gotten injured in my class. And that's so important to me because a lot of them have never done any exercise at all, like the first time I've done anything. And if I would, the class would get negative attention, or maybe I couldn't do it anymore if someone got injured and complained to the school. So I just stress that's so important. Just don't hurt yourself. Don't push yourself. If you can't do it, it's not a competition, which is really un-Korean because Korean is uber, uber, uber competitive.
I didn't even think of that element.
Yeah. And then Satva, which is the whole goal of just finding a harmony or balance between your energy state and let that carry over to your life. And Satva kind of leads rising energy to fuel the higher chakras where wisdom and vision, insight, all those things lie.
Awesome. Well, you're going to be teaching this program at Heart Mind Healing in February. So we're going to have it twice a week on Thursdays at 6:30 and Sundays at 4:30, 8 75-minute classes. So who's sort of the ideal student? Who's going to benefit the most from taking this program?
Well, basically any human will benefit, but it doesn't really matter your yoga background. Like I found that I've talked to a few yoga teachers who are kind of advanced in their teachings, whatever, and they're kind of have a very fixed, they're already kind of hardened in their yoga way of doing things, which is fine that they've taken that path. But like for me, I did it for 30 years, and then I realized, if you just be still in and between the poses, all that energy body, and basically you'll get the awareness of your energy body. And so that can be someone who's never done yoga, or who's done yoga but never found that there's much beyond just the physical part of it. But my students, like I said, my students grasp it. They get it I teach 15 weeks, but really about 10 or 11 classes only, because the rest are exams or holidays. And they grasp it in a second language. Right.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So they're learning it in their second language, and it's transformational for them. So for native English speakers.
Right. But you don't need any language just to feel that energy, right? So the key is, there's 3 goals. The first one is demystifying yoga. It's really pretty simple. The whole idea of just stillness. It's harder to do but it's really easy to, be still, in a basic sense. And the second part is that ideally you would have enough understanding of what yoga is just to be able to have a home practice or not need to go to a studio or somewhere to do yoga, because you would understand, this is yoga. You can just find other poses to do and add that to your repertoire and just be able to find that stillness on your own, because all you need is time and space to do yoga. And then the third goal is energy awareness, and then eventually gain control over that. And that comes from, again, just being still and finding that sattva. And I always talk about in my class the 3 M's, or the 3 no's. So music, movement, and what's the other one? Oh, mirrors. They're huge distractions. And if you've been to yoga classes where, my students have, for their final exam, I give them an option of going to another yoga class and then just comparing the two with my class and their class, or that class. And, I've been in classes where, it's so hard not to look in the mirror at yourself or other people. And that's such a distraction, right? And also with music as well, because that can influence your thinking. It's not you, it's something external that's influencing
Mm.
you, whether you think so or not. And then movement. You got to, you have to be still. You can't find Satva or can't find stillness when you're moving. So I emphasize stillness in and especially between the poses. And that's where that, my students get that right away. Like, oh, wow, I like this. Because they
Yeah,
never
those little
thought.
pockets of stillness.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. Yeah, I've had many people ask me about why I don't have mirrors in my yoga studio, and it's a very intentional choice because, like you said, it's really common to get distracted, looking at ourselves and then coming in with all sorts of judgments. I've heard a lot of people have that same complaint, with Zoom meetings. We end up, staring at ourselves and then getting critical over what we're seeing versus being in the moment.
Right.
So yeah, I
Yeah,
love
it's just
that.
like monkey brain sort of taking over.
Oh yeah.
And I taught this
Uh,
class online during COVID for a couple of years. Um, so, and if, I use video, it can be used, mirrors can be good or video can be good, but just kind of when you're just kind of figure out what you're doing, if it's right or wrong, but not in that sense where you're just always around and always have this distraction to look at because it can be.
right. And that's where it's different, a dance class, you want to make sure you can see the technical, your technique of the form.
Mhm.
But my favorite styles of yoga are where you're really feeling how it moves and feeling into your own body and experiencing it versus trying to portray a certain shape and go, oh, the hand isn't like this, it's like this. Doesn't matter as much.
Right, right,
But that's not where the special sauce is.
right. Yeah, and during COVID, so I would they would have to send me pictures of themselves doing the poses because
Oh, okay.
I didn't do it live because there's too many students, and plus it's so much better for them to engage in it whenever they could rather than at this fixed time in the morning when most of their
Mm.
schedules were so screwed up from COVID. They were up till 4 in the morning, doing homework or
Yeah.
binge watching. So it was better that way. They just sent pictures and I could like draw on the pictures or give them more direct feedback and stuff. So
Nice.
and then another
Sounds like
thing
that
about my
works really well
classes,
for them.
I'm sorry, about my classes, another focus is so it's English class. The idea is to develop their language skills. And at first I was like, okay, so here's uh ahimsa and here's satya about non-stealing and astya or truthfulness, whatever. And so go ahead, discuss and just because these things I realized, oh wait, so they have to read these things. It takes time for them to filter through, and then they write about this in their weekly journals to me. And it's very personal. I give them feedback, and they're not sharing that with others, so they can be more open about things in their lives. And that's also for me that's very fulfilling because I can give them more direct feedback and kind of give them a lot. They're just have these negative ideas in their head, like why do you think that? That's self-harm. That's another form of violence to yourself. So just
Hmm.
ignore that and just keep going and just build your energy up. Just make that
Yeah.
shield around you so you're stronger, right? You can
Hmm.
push back on life because life is very tough for that.
Yes. I mean, getting to know what's inside your brain is a very interesting process. And I know for me, yoga was instrumental for that. I didn't have tools to turn in until I started practicing yoga. And I was very grateful that when I started practicing, we got into some of this other, the meat of the practice,
Mhm.
um, the energetics and being able to be with the stillness in between the poses.
Right. And the
So,
key word you just said is tool. Like yoga is, I tell them it's just a tool. It's not me. It's not
mhm.
a teacher. It's a tool. It was made for you to understand yourself. Right.
Yeah. And you have to do it. So that's going to be one of the other key takeaways is by taking this program and then never using any of it again, that's not so helpful. But you have some reading materials that you're providing as well, right? For
Mhm.
practice beyond the class.
Yeah. So just like in my class there, we go over the yamas and niyamas in a more kind of in depth or very practical way and how it kind of relates to your everyday life. And
Yeah.
yeah, and that's what the students that's what they really benefit from because they've never really had a chance to look at these things or look. You're just looking at yourself and just seeing how your life kind of fits in with these concepts, which are really universal. It's not like
Hmm.
anything radical about finding clarity in what you want to do, and you have to work at contentment and then discipline and self knowledge, that kind of thing.
I know a lot of my favorite teachings I describe as simple but not easy. Like you're learning them and none of none of the topics are complex. There's
Right,
no comprehension issue, but it's
right,
like, all right, non-harm and non-harm to myself makes sense. How do I do it? How do I do it every day?
right, right. But the more you have this nice feeling of sattva, it's a really pleasant
Mhm.
feeling where it's sort of like you, like a head rush in a sense, but it's much deeper than that. But it's kind of like similar feeling. And once you keep doing that, once you realize you can do that every time you do a yoga pose, um, that becomes addicting, and that's what leads you to give you more confidence or ability to have these things just carry over naturally into your life.
Definitely. Well, I have a lot of the information you sent me about grasp yoga on the website, heartmindgnv.com/grasp, GRASP. So there's a nice little landing page there where people can see one of your great photos in Warrior Warrior 2 and read a little bit more about all of that, as well as sign up for the classes in February. And people can either sign up for drop-in as if only a couple fit in their schedule, or they can make the commitment to do all 8 classes and really dive on in with both feet to this program. And there's a little bit of a discount for the all-in. Nice. So do you have any other teachings or takeaways to leave us all with? Putting you on the spot?
Um, well, I talk about the three M's, the three no's, music, movement, and mirrors, but also I talk about the three P's, which you need are patience, perseverance, and I can't think of the third one. Um, Patience, perseverance, and oh, you can skip that part. Yeah, I have too many things I've said. No, but if people want to know more about it, again, they feel free to email me. I can send you, like I said, with the things that the students have written. I can tell you a little bit more
Yeah.
in detail about the program.
And do you want to
Okay.
say your email address?
Okay. So the three
Oh.
P's are patience, perseverance, and playfulness.
How could that's the most important one?
Right. I know. And that really is the most important thing. Just don't take it too seriously. It's not a competition. If you can't do it, just relax. Okay.
Yes.
It'll come. Just do what you
Oh,
can.
I love that.
Keep adding what you do, what you can. You know, the more you do these poses, the more that makes you able to expand your range of poses. That's how you grow your practice. And practice can be 10 poses or 100. I maybe do 100 or so, and that's enough. You know, there's thousands I can't do, but that's fine.
Mhm.
Right? That's fine. So
Uh,
yeah, my email is Griffin, my name Griffin, and then BEM2 at gmail.com. So Griffin BEM2, because the BEM is basic English for majors. That's the name of the class I teach.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for that. And I'm so glad that we were able to connect. I know, yeah, it was a lot of fun chatting with you. I've enjoyed when you came into the shop and we got to talk yoga. I love talking yoga with people who get it. So
Yeah,
thank you.
not not so many do either. It's kind of yeah, I know what you mean. Like some people just like, okay, well, we're just not gonna they're not gonna be open to it, or they have, like I said, they're kind of already
Right.
close in their yoga path, which is
Yeah.
fine. That's them, but like there's
Right.
more to it than that.
Well, yeah, so any questions on this, you can either put them in the comments and I'll make sure that they get to John, or you have his email. And yeah, wonderful. Well, hopefully we'll see some of the listeners and watchers in February for your class. And I know I'm really looking forward to it. There's always more to learn. So thank you so much.
Exactly. Yep. Come on down.